teams, like obviously I think we all think the Chargers could get up in Key's top 7, but like the Bengals, to me, they may go from being a Super Bowl loser to not making the playoffs.
Hey,
absolutely. I said that at the beginning of the year. Max looked at me like I had frogs on my face.
Oh man, they lost 2 close games. Give them a second to get it together.
But their quarterback's not going to make it through this season.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
No, it's real. That's real.
And
I can't argue that.
They did lose 2 close games.
Yep.
But guess what? It's the Bengals.
Bengals go to Bengals.
Those same 13 sacks that Mike just mentioned, they were winning those games last year. Mm-hmm. They're losing them now.
Yep. What about the Ravens? The reason I bring it up is I thought this is Lamar Jackson's year. They're going to win the Super Bowl. But there are 2 things, just like the Bengals, you can locate offensive line. That's a problem. The 2 things for me is guys were so wide open down the field against that secondary. And even more than that, a fundamental issue for me, Mike, they cannot run the ball unless Lamar Jackson is running.
Right. So one thing I would say early in the season, guys, when you look at the Ravens secondary, they were out there with their first-round pick, Kyle Hamilton, fourth-round pick, Jalen Armour-Davis. Late in the Jet game, Kyle Fuller was out for the year. He tore his ACL. So they got really young, really fast. Marcus Peters is working his way back from injury. And I think that was a really bad matchup for the Ravens from a standpoint. They're out there with 2 rookies. Now, look, you got to give Tua credit because we see blown coverages all the time in the NFL. Not all quarterbacks take advantage of it, so we got to give Tua credit. But I think the Ravens will get better because of their inexperience in the secondary. And then on the other side of the ball, Max, J.K. Dobbins hasn't played. So I think that will answer a lot of those questions because they couldn't run the ball in the second half. And that, as much as Miami had all those fireworks, if Baltimore made 1 or 2 more first downs, they never would have had that opportunity.
I think it's a blocking issue on the line.
Yeah, I feel like the Ravens will be fine. They'll figure it out, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I do want to ask you, I think the most disappointing team, you bring up a good point with the Bengals, but to me it's the Colts, right? We kept talking about them being a quarterback away. They get Matt Ryan. I mean, for them to tie the Texans, right, and then to literally get shut out of a game against the Jags, it's been a horrific start for Frank Reich.
Yeah, Jay, it's getting late early in Indy, and it goes back to the quarterback position. You know, it's weird the whole Andrew Luck situation happens. Jacoby Brissett goes in, plays pretty good football. Then they move on from him, and then they're like, okay, and just go right through the lineage, right? They try Carson Wentz, they try Matt Ryan, they try Phillip Rivers. None of these quarterbacks are working. That's 5 different quarterbacks that they've tried, and knowing that owner and the way his proclivities, it is getting late early, and to not have a win against either Houston or Jacksonville is really a big concern. And Matt Ryan looks like he's really close to the end.
By the way, which is why you get him for a 3rd-round pick, right? Like, I'm sorry. If I know they sent him to where he wanted to go, but if there was any marketplace for him in a quarterback-hungry league, you get more than a 3rd-round pick for him. Since Jimmy Garoppolo's taken over now in San Francisco, I think of them as Super Bowl contenders because when he's healthy, they always are, right? Do you think that Indianapolis missed on Garoppolo in retrospect by opting for Ryan?
100%, and especially that offensive line isn't what it once was, especially at left tackle. They're playing with Matt Pryor, so Jimmy Garoppolo is a lot more athletic than what Matt Ryan is now at his age, so I think Garoppolo would have been a much better decision for them than Matt Ryan.
Oof. That's some tough break right there. I want to get back to the Bills with Josh Allen, Jay.
Yeah, I just have one more question for Key real quick. So, Key, I'm just curious, like your terminology. So you punished the Chargers.
Yeah, I punished them.
But you didn't punish the Ravens.
They've been in the playoffs with Lamar Jackson.
I didn't punish the Ravens because
but their defense was horrible.
I didn't punish the Ravens simply because the Ravens were running away with the game. On top of running away with the game, the secondary is young, inexperienced. On top of the secondary being young and inexperienced, they got a new defensive coordinator, and they've been in the playoffs every single year that the quarterback, by the way, who won an MVP, has taken him to the playoffs every single year he's been a full-time starter. So I'm not punishing him for that reason. And I think if he stays healthy, this team can challenge in the AFC for sure, find themselves possibly in the AFC Championship game either against Kansas City or against Buffalo.
Jay,
that's why they don't get punished. Miami Dolphins football team, I know you love them. You're a Tua guy. I get it, Jay. It's all in.
I want to see Tua win in the midst of people saying he can't do it.
I get it. I understand that. There's nothing wrong with being a fan of a guy who's doing well. There's nothing wrong with it.
But you talk about the youth of their secondary. Man, they had Tyreek Hill in single, one-on-one coverage on the outside.
But that's the inexperience. That's the coaching. New play caller. That's the new defensive coordinator and the inexperience of those guys. It's not taking anything away from the Miami Dolphins.
Key.
I'm just not punishing the Baltimore Ravens.
Key, let's cut to the chase here. Jay, we know each other. We get to know each other. You do a radio show for 4 hours a day for a year. You get to know each other very well. We know what it is with Key. They have not been to the playoffs with Justin
Absolutely.
Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens not only have been to the playoffs, but every year they do better when Lamar Jackson's healthy.
Absolutely.
They fail miserably. Then they fail by a little. Then they win. He's seen it. So he's not giving the Chargers the benefit of the doubt and giving the Ravens. I actually think that's fair, Mike, to give the benefit of the doubt to the team you've seen who did it. No?
Well, no, that's fair. But I also say, like, okay, who could get better? To Key's point, I think those two young DBs will get better. I think Mike McDonald he did the Harbaugh shuttle. He came from the University of Michigan, went to John Harbaugh. I think he'll get better. But I also think that Justin Herbert, who's fourth in the league to win the MVP here, is going to continue to get better and better. And guys, if we were starting a team today, the conversation would be around Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert. And I would put Herbert right there with the rest, because he is. If you were building a quarterback in a lab, he looks like the perfect guy.
Yep.
But Mike, the Chargers' problem isn't Justin Herbert. It's not just Justin Herbert's giving us everything that we look for in a quarterback, right? He's done everything that he's supposed. It wasn't his fault that Everett floated out on the stick route. It wasn't his fault that he didn't retrace back down. His legs was too heavy. I'm not punishing Herbert. I'm punishing the Chargers for setting me up for failure.
Let's talk about the quarterbacks for a second. By the way, Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max were presented by Progressive Insurance. Mike Tannenbaum, our very own personal GM, with us here at ESPN. I want to talk about the quarterbacks and especially Josh Allen. We all have our own kind of personal biases, right? Mm-hmm. And here's where I think I am with Josh Allen, because he is clearly having the best season so far, and he was great at the end of last year. And I should give him extra credit for taking step after step, getting better and better and better with those raw tools he has. But it's hard for me to overcome the fact that first time I saw Patrick Mahomes, I said, that's it, boy. First time I saw Justin Herbert, I thought, oh, my God. And they've gotten better since then. Whereas Josh Allen, you saw raw material, and year over year over year, he's gotten better. But at this moment, Mike, hard to make an objective case so far that he's not number one, right?
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, absolutely. And he has gotten better. You know, coming out of Wyoming, he brought up a great point. How's Stephon Diggs go in the fifth round? Well, how does Josh Allen not go number one overall? He was not accurate at Wyoming, and he has gotten better. And I think it's a great reminder, guys, that the quarterback is a developmental position. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. Tua has gotten better. Jalen Hurts has gotten better. So before we eviscerate all these guys, they do get better. But Josh Allen has the character and all the ability in the world. And it's look at the AFC. Like when you think about Lamar Jackson, you think about him, Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, like those four guys.
Not to mention Joe Burrow, by the way.
That's the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks.
Or by the way, and I hate to say it because he hasn't played in a while, Deshaun Watson when he's on the field.
We'll see what that is. But see, Mike, when they go back and they do these scouts and they look at this stuff and they say, well, he wasn't accurate at Wyoming. He was throwing to me and you at our age right now in Wyoming. Them dudes were so bad. Not one receiver is in the National Football League off his team. Not one.
Zach Wilson doesn't have that offensive line at BYU.